Welcome back to RiftGuides, and we are up for another high ELO tier list. We'll talk about the best champions in the Rift and what you can do with them with our picks of the patch. But before we hop into it, let's talk about our question of the day. What is your favorite game mode and why? Let me know in the comments below. For our very first pick of this patch in the Baron lane, we have a champion that isn't S tier, but still very fun and interesting to play. With all those changes to the game, adding lethal tempo, changing the warrior quick blades, and making him overall more powerful as the game progresses, he became kind of the sleeper pick. We're talking about Tryndamere. Yes, I know most of you will be like, what the heck, why Tryndamere? But listen to me. Tryndamere's passive is attack speed. Then you add lethal tempo to the mix and the fact that he has high AD plus crit, and then he becomes a menace to society. Especially in the context of the game progressing and his ultimate granting him invulnerability, or rather he just can't die for 5 seconds, things get really troublesome for enemy champions, that is if Thresh is banned and Mr. Jax is banned. Otherwise you'll have a field day on the Rift. Oh yeah, not to mention Mr. Malphite. Nobody likes Mr. Malphite, and Rammus could also pose a problem. But this champion is very fun to play, and it's just very interesting to see this champion played because you have proper setup for your jungle. Because upon reaching level 5, you can just dive anyone you want because you have extra 5 seconds to work with. That is such a huge advantage over other champions, you have no idea how broken it actually becomes. Not only that, you can also suicide split push as the game progresses and just dive on inhibitor tower with his ultimate. For team fights, the enemy team needs to commit so many resources to just stop him from killing the backline, it gets really absurd. Because as he gains more crit and more AD, his cooldowns will just become 0. He will just spin over you and over you and over you, and if you don't have enough spells to deal with it, like stasis or anything, he will just kill you. And even if you have CC, if he goes QSS, things look really dire for you. But don't get me wrong, Tryndamere isn't the strongest pick, and there are definitely better picks available, for example, the easy to play Wukong and other champions in the S tier, but Tryndamere is a rising pick that is completely slept on. And this is our full tier list for the Baron lane. Next on this list comes the jungle role, and here we have another sleeper pick. You all know that ranked is in a very weird spot where you play against most interesting humans most of the time and play alongside interesting humans. So you need champions that are able to split push, team fight, and do basically everything on their own in the jungle role, because you have to accommodate for their mistakes while also relentlessly scaling into the later stages of the game while being able to take objectives on your own and pushing towers on your own. So a champion such as Shyvana does every of the above very well. This champion also features super high damage, especially if you complete Trinity Force and play the Ruined King and tag somebody with your third ability, you'll send them into death instantaneously. Just auto attack into auto attack reset with your first ability, and you take away like 50% of the enemy's HP instantly. It's really fun to witness. Also, many people believe that Shyvana needs to take dragons and heralds all the time, which is not true anymore. You can settle for whatever you get for free and just scale up with the passive points you have. Just keep on full clearing your jungle, consume every camp on the map that's available, go for waves and just scale up. The moment you hit free items and become tanky enough to deal with multiple people, you can just run them down. This is a little bit different compared to other junglers, but for Shyvana you can aim for like at least 1000 gold per minute. It's really reliable on this champion, don't ask me how, but it works really well. She just clears too fast and is too powerful and just needs to be very much aware of what can possibly kill her, and then she'll be fine. Unless you run it down with her, then you are pretty much in a very good spot to get things done. And this is our full tier list for the jungle role. Next up comes the mid lane, and here we have a lane dominant pick with Lucian. Lucian is one of those champions that is very oppressive and can dictate the pace on the map very early on. He can be the difference maker or the game changer when it comes to early invades and just overall rotations. This champion beats up most of the enemy's laners easily without any problem, and only a few champions can go head to head with him. Other than that, he becomes a very big menace throughout the game as he scales really neatly into the later stages of the game, given that he's going crit. If he's going for other items such as Mana Immune or Black Cleaver or any of those items, he will take so much longer to deal damage and just becomes like some weird kind of champion that does a little bit of damage while surviving. It's just a weird combination of things. But if you want the most damage possible, especially in a solo queue context, you want to go for crit. And with crit, you'll demolish the opposition instantly upon hitting those item spikes. But when it comes to Lucian, it's not only that the early laning phase is so oppressive, it's also the control when he has access to his ultimate ability. Using his second ability into his ultimate ability allows him to just chunk out one target before a fight even starts, which is very, very uncommon for a typical AD carry. With this in mind, also hitting item spikes such as Navari Quick Blades, he becomes a space gliding demon. He just has to spam all the spells on cooldown and make sure he doesn't input wrong spells in the sense of wrong directions, and then he'll be very much fine to carry fights. But if there's a downside to this champion, it's his low range when he has to get close. So if you make a mistake, you will most likely die, but if you're playing flawlessly, you will have a great time with this champion. And this is our full tier list for the mid lane. Next on this list comes an absolute demonic creature when it comes to laning presence similar to Lucian, but this champion has even more presence in the Dragon Lane. It's Caitlyn. If you pair up this champion with any kind of enchanter or anything that's oppressive, you will have big problems like losing platings, losing HP, and being at the threat of being dove all the time. This champion's damage is not legal at all when it comes to the early stages of the game, and if you are caught in any of those combos of a Caitlyn, you will die. So if you pair this champion with a champion that allows Caitlyn to place traps underneath crowd control targets, then you probably just instantly die. If she gets to trap you, gets her headshot, she gets to use her third ability, gets another headshot, and her first ability combined with the support's damage, things look kinda grim for you. Also, she's one of those champions that has an easy time proccing bone plating without anything that she has to do for it, simply because of her range. But if there's one weakness for Caitlyn, it's losing lane. If she loses lane, things get really dicey for her, but other than that, things are really nice. Also, this is kind of the interesting thing, Caitlyn's playstyle can be like similar to that of a mage, and here's why. So you know about energized items, and if you go Stormraze into static shift, you'll have some interesting burst damage on one hit. So let's say you crit an enemy AD carry with your first auto attack on Stormrazer proc and static proc. You'll take away 50% of their HP. That's quite interesting, right? And when it comes to just poking enemies before a fight, you can also use the Stormrazer and static, just hitting them once and then kiting again, while using your wall of traps as utility. And that's basically most that comes to it. And if this champion is ahead with an enchanter or anything that protects her, things get really, really bad for your team. And this is our full tier list for the Dragon Lane. Last but not least, we put the support role here, and we have a champion that is still an abomination, and it's Yuumi, the lovely magical cat. This cat has been a problem maker all the time, and it's getting really into annoying points because this champion and Lulu alike make it very difficult for skill expression to show in the Dragon Lane. Those champions, including Tristana, make it so goddamn difficult for anything to happen down there in terms of punishment, because you'll always get away with it in a solo queue context. You'll be allowed to scale, kill people, hit late game, and then just carry without anything to do. All you have to do is just auto-attack input and just let it rip. It's really annoying. And for Yuumi, we have the biggest problem that AP champions are absolutely broken in this game, and Yuumi just accelerates their ability power gain too much. The conversion from her second ability into ability power is just too high. And once you add an AP champion next to it and the AP champion hits like 3 items and Yuumi has 2 or 1.5, you will see that you will have a full inventory of items basically worth of stats on the host. And if a Gwen or a Ziggs or even an AD carry, it doesn't really matter at this point, is attached with a Yuumi, then they'll just one-tap you. A Gwen with 3 items will instantly kill 4 people with just her ultimate alone, with the Yuumi on top of her on 3 items. It's just that criminal. And for AD carries, she'll allow them to just play the most horrendous way without fearing death, because Yuumi can peel for you with the ultimate ability, can engage for you with the movement speed, and just keep you safe overall, while also being able to poke the enemy with nuclear missiles. It is quite the champion. And that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel and come back for more, and see you tomorrow.